Could have everyone's attention. Sounds like a boxing ring or something, right? In this corner. I want to share just a few notes from this past year, events that are going on, things that have been accomplished, all of those types of things. We do have our quarterly newsletters coming out that talks about Easter, because that happened April 4th. That's in the quarterly newsletter. April, May, and June. So that's going to come out this week. We ended up with, I believe we ended up with 9. I think I may get off a little bit on one number, but 9 were baptized into the Catholic Church or into Christianity through our vigil Easter Mass, and then we had 9 other students who came in from other Christian denominations. So we ended up, I think, with 18 that came in. That's a pretty good amount. We have we always apply for grants. We never know if we're going to get them from the diocese, but things were a little bit more sparse on the Bishop's annual appeal, but nevertheless, we still applied and did receive some grants. So our total grant amount that we received, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. There you go. Okay, good. And first of all, before I tell you how much we got, it's a true story. This is from Julie Garrison, so you can't find any truer than that. How about a hand for her? So she tells me the story that they were reviewing, the board, the diocese was reviewing our particular grants that we were applying for, and it didn't look very good, and all of a sudden the bishop walked in. Oh boy, you could just, the mood changes instantly when the bishop gets in, and he sits down, he says, which one are y'all talking about? And he gets the right page, and he says, well, how much did John Paul II, what did they contribute on the side of the annual appeal? How much what was they asked to give, and how much did they give? I said, well, we're asked to give $14,000, and they gave $17,000. He said, you mean they gave 130%, they gave 30% over, 130% of the total? And everybody said, yeah, isn't that amazing? That's awesome. There's a lot of parishes, if not most, weren't able to make it. So anyway, he said, okay, they're a college, they need this, and they have given back, and they have fulfilled what I have asked them to do. Let's make sure we give them the most amount we can. So they ended up and gave us $27,000 for this next year. So some good divine graces. Somebody in here was praying. So praise God on that. Also, we applied 2 years ago. We were trying to get our stained glass windows in, and we just got bogged down. There was just the COVID hit and other things hit, and trying to track where everything was. So I made a decision a week or two ago. I said, I'm going to start over. We're going to start from scratch and just reapply because everything had changed anyway. So Father Ken Robinson, how many people here? Wave your hands if you know Father Ken Robinson. There we go. Okay. From Munster. He told me one thing he says, I'll tell you how the diocese works. If you have money, then they will let you deal. All right? So, we faced the other issues. And so, and we only had a certain percent of money for the stained glass, and we got bogged down, as I said. So anyway, we tallied up everything that we had. Nevertheless, we applied on Tuesday of this week. We applied through the construction office and the finance office, which usually you have to set a schedule to get to a meeting. Then they may or may not get to you in their meeting, and you have to wait, and they have to come back. Things get delayed. And then you only get one at a time. You got to go through the construction office, and then you got to go to another office, and you got to go to the finance office. Well, guess what? When you evidently have enough money, which we have enough for the stained glass windows paid in full, it got approved on Thursday. There you go. I'm not saying it, but I'm just saying. Okay. And I mentioned something this evening for those who came to Mass, that we have quite a few number of men and women have entered religious life that have been associated with our parish. And I miscalculated a little bit this evening whenever I was doing the numbers. I'd said that there was 4 guys and 3 women in religious life. I messed up on that, and I still may have a little count. But we had Caitlin Schulte. Caitlin Schulte was a focus missionary with us for 2 years, and she entered religious life about 2 years ago. Lindsay Soul, she was from TW. She entered religious life in a community in Ohio. We had Melissa Anthony. Many people may know Melissa. She was a student at UNT. I think she ended up and joined the Sisters of Life in New York. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then last August, we had Melissa Gonzalez join in the novitiate. She has joined in for the Carmelites in Dallas. And then we had another woman, Jasmine Sanchez, also entered. So currently we have 5 women from our parish in religious life. So there you go. And then on the men's side, we have Regan Legend. Regan is graduated UNT, and he is with the Salesian Order in California. We had one of the focus missionaries. Our first male focus missionary was Elijah Thompson, and he's in the seminary studying for the Diocese of Dallas. We had one of our grad students from UNT getting his master's, finished his master's in history, Ishmael Rodriguez, and he ended up and joined Focus Missionaries, and now I think this next year he'll be a deacon, but he's a seminarian for the Diocese of Dallas. And then last year, Victor Baiz, he also had joined up with the Focus Missionaries, and now this past year he's been a seminarian for the Diocese of Tyler. And then this week, we had Edgardo Salas. So maybe a few students may remember Edgardo. He just graduated from UNT with a degree in philosophy, and he was newly accepted this week by the Dominicans and will serve his novitiate year in the Dominican house at the University of Dallas. So we've got 5 women and 5 guys. And then we have some associates. We have some other people that are associated with our parish. Jacob Zimmer is a little bit associated with our parish from here in Denton. Father Brett Metzler newly ordained. So Mike and Tammy Messler are parishioners of ours, so that's their son. And then I'm going to say the last name wrong, the Maritzels over here. Is that how you say it? No. Close enough, the Maritzels. Okay, so the Maritzel family, I think they have quite a few in religious life. I don't know. But anyway, we have Michael has sung in our choir quite a bit, and Helen graduated UNT. So Helen and Daniel, she recently got married this last year. Hey, stand up, stand up. Embarrassed time. So, as I was saying just a little bit at Mass, it's like we're really just starting to scratch the surface. And here you can see that we have 10 people that were directly associated with our parish that are in religious life. And in the Diocese of Fort Worth, maybe the biggest parish in the diocese, St. Elizabeth and Seton and Keller, maybe they have 10, maybe not. So we're just beginning, and we're bearing much fruit. So just wanted to share all that good news. Again, it is about 8:15 here. Okay, at 9 o'clock, at 9 o'clock sharp, the silent auction closes. Is there anything else? Okay, come see Trey if you need any help. Thank you so much. God bless.
So we have a couple of students that would like to share their testimony on how St. John Paul II has helped them. So I'd like to turn the floor over to Jenna Goodman.
Okay, hi, I'm Jenna Goodman. I'm a sophomore at UNT majoring in speech pathology. I'm majoring in speech pathology and I can't even say it, so that's how that's going. Pray for me. My siblings and I were born in San Antonio, and my mom's Catholic, so I am a cradle Catholic, but I wasn't catechized very well, so I wasn't really ever introduced to my faith, and I never really knew what truly living your faith looked like. My faith during my entire childhood and teenage years was basically me just being Catholic because I was a rule follower and I was terrified of not doing the right thing. But this fear was never because of my love for Jesus. It was simply because I was a perfectionist who needed to please people giving me commands. My junior year of high school, I toured UNT with my aunt who lives in the area, and she insisted on stopping at the Catholic Church, and that was back when JP2 was just a small little JP2. So I walked into a small building, and I just saw 3 really tall guys, and that was that, and I was like, okay, cool, I guess, yeah. And my aunt was like, no, Jenna, this is a good parish. You know it's good because they made the boys stick around. So yeah, good job on that. Obviously, I ended up choosing UNT because here I am. And during move-in week, my same aunt who was with me when we first went and looked at JP2, I asked her, I was like, hey, can you take me back to JP2? Because I don't really remember where it is, and I don't want to go alone, I'm kind of scared. So, you know, she took me, and it was funny, I told her that I was more scared of just missing Mass because I didn't want to be in mortal sin, because that's a really bad thing. So she laughed at me for that, but that next Wednesday, I came back alone that time, and it was a community night, and regardless of how awkward and shy I was, it was really cool because everyone there just seemed to want to get to know me. They just kept asking me questions about myself, and they actually seemed interested on getting to know who I was. I gave a few girls my number, which eventually led to being texted, and they invited me to a Bible study. And really great girl, Carmen, I don't know if you'll know her, she's awesome. She led my Bible study, and then she asked me if she could disciple me. And you can't say yes, or you can't say no to Carmen, so I said yes. So we would meet at 7:30 in the morning on Thursdays, and for a college student, that is awful. But it actually ended up being like the highlight of my week. So I was super excited for that, and it was just really cool because being in these small, intimate groups made sharing my faith and learning about my faith so much easier, because I would just talk to some of the closest friends I had ever made, and I would look back on the conversation and it would be all about God. And I've never had friends that, just normal conversation, it's girls, we gossip, we talk about, makeup, hair, but no, it was all about God. So when Jesus started to spread his ministry, he did so by getting groups of 3 to 12, and he would form intimate relationships with them. And then he would expect them to go make more friends, spread their faith in their ministry, and then it would eventually spread through intimate relationships. And this parish has showed me that this way Jesus has spread ministry is actually attainable. Like, this isn't just another Bible story that Jesus did. Like, we can do this too. So, this parish has really showed me that, and this ministry truly knows the importance of intimate and Christ-filled relationships that help students live their faith and come back for more. So without the community that has been made at JP2, I probably wouldn't be standing here bragging about all the great friends I made, because I wouldn't be here at all. Without the help of parishioners and ministers, and especially Father Kyle, my faith would have never transformed from rule following to true passion and love for Christ. The support and generosity of our parishioners is such a huge component of what it takes to give life to the young adults in this world. Keeping your faith alive in college is not an easy thing, especially after you graduate college as well. So thank you to all the parishioners, and thank you to everyone here tonight. You've given our ministry and our students the chance, resources, and community to spread their faith and to grow in it. And without you, none of this would have been possible. And my life probably wouldn't have been changed for the better. So thank you, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I believe we have Jackson sharing his testimony next.
I'd like to thank Trey and Father Kyle for giving me the opportunity to come up and share my testimony. Before I share my testimony of John Paul II Catholic Church, I have to share my testimony of the Catholic Church. I am not a cradle Catholic. I've been Catholic for just over 2 years now. I came into the church at Easter Vigil 2019 when John Paul II was still having masses in Goolsby Chapel. I was born into the Churches of Christ, which is a non-liturgical American Protestant denomination which was formed in the 1800s. And my upbringing was pretty typical of a devout American Protestant family. We went to church every Sunday. We went to Bible classes on Wednesdays. And, it was just your typical American Protestant upbringing. My faith in Christ became my own about my freshman year of high school, or just after. In 8th grade, my uncle died, and my uncle is a Catholic. And when he died, my grandmother gave me his rosary. And this was the first real experience of Catholicism that I had. My freshman year of high school, I started dating a Mormon, and that got me involved in religion and apologetics. I had decided I needed to bring my LDS friends into Christ, and that made me not only get involved in looking at other religions, but my own Protestant faith. That summer, I had come to the conclusion that Mormonism was false and that I needed to save my Mormon friends, which got me involved in apologetics. I went to my first Catholic Mass, and I'm ashamed to say I was not that impressed. It truly was at the time I didn't know what I was witnessing. And then I went to my Protestant church camp, had this great spiritual experience, and was on fire for Christ in the Protestant church. I was going to become an evangelist, an apologist. I was going to become a preacher in the Churches of Christ. In fact, I preached a couple of sermons while I was still at that congregation. And then it all came tumbling down between my junior and senior year of high school. I had a crisis of faith, almost became an agnostic, almost became an atheist, and really, really, really deeply struggled with my faith. Eventually, I came out of that temptation and believed in God, believed in Christ, but I stopped believing in the Churches of Christ. I had seen them abandon not only their particular traditions, which made them culturally who they are, but see them abandon some of their traditional teachings on the Bible. I remember the moment that I decided I needed to leave the Churches of Christ. I was sitting in a sermon, and the preacher there had said, every 3 days a Church of Christ shuts down. And he said that to say the Church of Christ needed a revival. One of the things that I had memorized while talking to my Mormon friends was Matthew 16:18. The Mormon church teaches that there was an apostasy and that the church fell away. And I would always say to them, no, Matthew 16:18 says, thou art Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. I'm going to tell you, God has a really, really good sense of humor, because I'm sitting down in my Protestant church hearing that the Church of Christ is slowly dying, and the first thing that pops in my mind is, thou art Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. A little bit later, we were talking about church history at this congregation, and they'd given us the timeline of Christian denominations. From the 1st century onward, there was one unified church, and then it split into the Catholic and Orthodox church, and my immediate thought was, okay, it's either Catholic or Orthodox. I just got to figure out which one. So I went to an Orthodox church. I went to a Catholic church, and I started really loving the idea of liturgy. It seemed appropriate to me that the worship was ordered, and that the focus of it was Holy Communion. At the start of my senior year, I was starting to realize that I was probably going to become Catholic, but I wasn't all that sure. I eventually met the man who had become my confirmation sponsor, and he gave me it was the first time I had ever heard good answers to questions about Catholicism that made me uncomfortable. And at this time, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe there is something to this. Maybe this is where I'm eventually going to end up. But I didn't know at that moment. So I graduated high school, and I was still looking around. I went to a Lutheran church. I went to a Methodist church. I kept going to the Churches of Christ. And eventually what I begun to notice is that everything was approaching Catholicism. Everything was Catholicism minus something or other. For the Orthodox, it was Catholicism minus the Pope. For the Lutherans, it was Catholicism minus the Pope and Mary. For Methodists, it was Catholicism minus Orthodoxy. So, it just seemed to me that everything was pointing towards the Catholic Church, and I was still really uncomfortable with it. And my thought process was, all right, I don't know if the Catholic Church is where I ought to be, but I know that I shouldn't be anywhere else. So I started RCIA at John Paul II Parish, and I started learning more about the Catholic faith. And as I started to learn the truth of Catholicism, what the Catholic Church actually teaches, I started warming up more and more to it. The two things that I was still unsure about was the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and the sinlessness of the Virgin Mary. What convinced me on that was when I found out that even Martin Luther and the Lutheran Church held to those beliefs. And I thought, okay, well, if Protestantism has deviated this far from what it was meant to be, that's a serious point for Catholicism. So I keep going through this, and as I do more research, I become convinced, and I still have this conviction, if I didn't, I wouldn't be standing in front of you, that the Catholic Church is the church that Christ established, and that it is incumbent upon anybody who loves Christ to be a part of it. And the rest is history. Go through RCIA, do the rite of welcome, come to the church at Easter Vigil. I've been Catholic for 2 years. That's my testimony of the Catholic faith. My testimony at JP2 is very similar, but a little bit different. The first time I stepped into JP2 was during First Flight Week, going into my freshman year of college. And the one thing that I will never forget is that as a new student, just exploring this, not even Catholic yet, all of the students treated me like I had always been there. I immediately became friends with people at the parish. And as I got more and more involved, those friendships just deepened and deepened and deepened. The students at John Paul II are not just my friends, they are my brothers and sisters in Christ. And I don't say that because I'm obligated to. I used to say that about some of the people that I went to youth group as a Protestant with. But when I say it about JP2, I mean it. There are people in this parish that are closer to me than family. And if some of these people, if I had the opportunity to call up my own brother and ask for help, or some of my brothers at JP2 for help, I'd call JP2 quicker than I would my own brother. This is how deep these relationships are at this parish. Not only are the relationships deep, but I am Catholic today because of John Paul II Parish. Formation of JP2 was incredible. There's a quote by Bishop Fulton Sheen that I think is really true, and as going through RCIA, I learned this. It's something like, there are not 100 people in the United States that hate the Catholic Church, but there are millions of people who hate what they wrongly think the Catholic Church is. JP2 makes sure that if you step in the doors of their parish and you want to know what the Catholic Church is, you will walk out knowing what the Catholic Church is. Because of JP2, not only do I have a great family, but I am also a Catholic and a son of God the Father Almighty. I want to share a quick psalm. It's only 3 verses long, that every time I pray this psalm, it reminds me of the parish. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity. Like the precious ointment on the head that ran down upon the beard of Aaron, which ran down to the skirt of his garment, as the dew of Hermon, which descendeth upon Mount Sion, for there the Lord hath commanded blessing and life forevermore. Pax Christi, thank you so much.
Have the band come up now? Sorry.
All right, I hope you all enjoyed the testimonies tonight. We're going to have the band at Caliber is going to get set up here in just a minute. So we'll get some music going, we'll turn the lights down, and y'all can start some dancing.
Okay, are we done with the stream?